It was supposed to be a joyful moment. Luna, a loving German shepherd, had finally given birth after weeks of waiting. Her owner, David, watched with tears in his eyes as tiny newborns squirmed beside her. But within minutes, that joy twisted into shock. The puppies she delivered looked so wrong. The puppies looked nothing like their mother, too small, too pale. Their cries didn't sound like puppies at all. Luna refused to let anyone near them, growling even at David, her instincts fierce and strange, something she had never done before. Panic spread when the vet examined the newborns and froze mid-sentence. "These aren't puppies," she whispered, her face pale. What followed was a revelation so unbelievable it stunned every doctor in the room. Luna hadn't just given birth. She had carried a secret that would change everything. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The early morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, spilling golden warmth across the living room floor. In the middle of that soft light lay Luna, a magnificent German shepherd with eyes full of quiet intelligence and warmth. Her breathing was slow and steady, her large belly gently rising and falling. She was nearing the end of her pregnancy, and every movement seemed to remind her that something special was about to happen. David sat nearby, his coffee growing cold on the table. He had been watching her for weeks, counting the days, reading every guide about caring for a pregnant dog. Luna wasn't just a pet to him, she was family. 3 years earlier, he had rescued her from an abandoned construction site, terrified and alone. Since that day, she had never left his side. As Luna shifted slightly, letting out a small whimper, David leaned forward. "Easy, girl," he whispered softly, brushing her fur. "Just a few more days, huh?" She looked at him with those deep brown eyes, the kind that always seemed to understand more than words could say. Outside, the world was waking up. Birds sang from the trees and the faint hum of traffic drifted through the window. But inside that little home, time felt slower, quieter. It was a moment wrapped in peace, the kind that happens before life changes forever. David had already prepared everything: a soft blanket in the corner, clean towels, and a small basket filled with toys he had bought for the puppies. He couldn't help but smile, imagining tiny paws running across the floor and Luna proudly watching over them. But lately, he had noticed something odd. Luna had become unusually restless at night. Sometimes she would pace near the back door, sniffing at the air as if searching for something unseen. Other times she would lie near the window, staring into the darkness with an expression David couldn't quite read. Still, he brushed off his unease. Maybe it's just nerves, he told himself, stroking her head. But deep down, a small voice whispered that something about this pregnancy was different. Neither he nor Luna knew it yet, but the miracle waiting to unfold would defy everything they thought they understood about nature. And love. The night arrived quietly, with rain tapping softly against the windows and thunder rumbling in the distance. David had been half asleep on the couch when he heard the first faint whine. He sat up instantly. Luna was restless, circling her blanket, breathing heavily. Her time had come. He rushed to her side, his heart racing. "It's okay, girl. I'm right here," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. Luna's eyes met his, full of pain but also trust. Minutes turned into hours as the storm outside grew stronger. Lightning flashed, casting brief bursts of white light across the room, revealing Luna's determination with every contraction. Finally, the first puppy arrived. David exhaled in relief, his smile wide. But as he looked closer, his joy faltered. The tiny newborn didn't look like any German shepherd puppy he'd ever seen. Its fur was pure white, almost glowing under the dim lamp, and its body was smaller, more fragile. He frowned, but quickly reminded himself that variations were normal. Maybe the others would look different. One after another, more newborns followed, 4, then 5. But each one was the same. Small, snow-white, with pointed little ears and delicate faces. None had Luna's dark coat or markings. Confusion flickered across David's face as he glanced between them and their mother. Luna, however, seemed unbothered. She gently cleaned each one, her tongue soft and careful, her instincts guiding her like a mother who had done this 1,000 times. When David tried to move closer, she gave a low growl, not of anger but of warning. She wanted space. She wanted to protect them. David stepped back, his heart pounding. "It's okay, Luna. he murmured, raising his hands. "I just want to help." But she wouldn't let him. Her eyes, usually gentle and calm, now carried something fierce, something primal. Hours later, when the storm finally eased, Luna curled herself around the tiny white newborns, keeping them close beneath her fur. David sat there in silence, the sound of rain fading into the night. He should have felt relief. Instead, unease crept in. Those newborns weren't normal, and deep down he knew something extraordinary was hiding in that small bundle of life. The next morning, the house was unusually quiet. The storm had passed, leaving behind a calm golden light that streamed through the curtains. David moved softly through the living room, carrying a bowl of water and some food for Luna. He smiled faintly, expecting to see her resting peacefully with her newborns. But as he approached, his smile faded. Luna wasn't in her usual spot. The blanket was empty. Only a few paw prints and faint traces of fur remained. His pulse quickened. "Luna?" He called out, his voice echoing slightly in the stillness. A faint rustle came from under the couch. When he knelt down, he saw her, curled tightly around the tiny white newborns, her eyes alert, her body tense. "Hey, girl," he whispered gently, sliding the bowl toward her. But Luna didn't move. She just stared at him, her ears flat, her tail wrapped protectively around the small, sleeping creatures. When he tried to reach out, she let out a low growl, soft but warning enough to make him stop. David froze, his heart sinking. Luna had never acted this way before. She was always calm, affectionate, trusting. But now something in her had changed. It wasn't anger, and it was fear. A deep instinctive fear of losing what she was protecting. He noticed she hadn't touched her food. Her eyes were tired, her body trembling slightly, yet she refused to rest. Every time one of the newborns stirred, she leaned down immediately, nuzzling them closer as if the world outside was dangerous. David sighed and sat back, unsure of what to do. "I don't understand, Luna," he whispered. "Why won't you let me help?" But Luna only lowered her head, pressing her nose against the smallest of the newborns. In that moment, David felt it, and a strange heaviness in the air. Something about those tiny lives didn't belong here, and though he couldn't explain it yet, he sensed that whatever Luna was protecting wasn't what anyone expected. By the third day, David couldn't shake the growing knot of worry in his chest. Luna still refused to eat or leave the newborns. Her ribs had begun to show. Her eyes looked sunken, and yet her determination to guard the tiny creatures never wavered. Every attempt he made to get closer ended the same way. A low growl, a flash of teeth, and her curling tighter around the small white bundles. Finally, David knew he had no choice. "Luna, we're going to see Dr. Harris," he said softly, reaching for her leash. His voice trembled, not from fear of her, but of what they might discover. Getting her to the car wasn't easy. Luna resisted at first, whining as if she feared someone would take her babies away. David moved slowly, speaking in the same gentle tone he'd used when he first rescued her years ago. "It's okay, girl. I promise I won't let anyone hurt them." Eventually she relented, following him with cautious steps. At the clinic, Dr. Harris, a kind-faced woman with decades of experience, greeted them. "You look exhausted, Luna," she murmured, crouching down carefully. When David explained what had been happening, the vet's expression shifted from concern to curiosity. Luna lay down reluctantly as the doctor examined the newborns. Her gloved hands moved gently, but her brow furrowed deeper with each passing second. "David," she finally said, her voice uncertain. "These don't look like German Shepherd puppies," David frowned. "What do you mean?" "They're just pale, right? Maybe they'll change color." Dr. Harris shook her head slowly. "No, look at their faces, their features. Their ear shape, their snouts. They're completely different." She gently lifted one of the newborns under the light. The tiny creature squirmed softly, letting out a faint sound. Not a whimper, but something more high-pitched, almost like a chirp. A chill ran down David's spine. "Then what are they?" The vet hesitated, her eyes darting between Luna and the newborns. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But we need to run a few tests. Whatever these are, Luna seems to think they're hers, and she'll protect them with her life." As Luna watched silently, her paw resting over the small creatures, David realized this was no ordinary birth. Something far stranger and far deeper was unfolding before them. The clinic lights were bright, sterile, and cold, a stark contrast to the warmth of David's home. Luna lay anxiously on the examination table, her eyes darting from the doctors to the newborns. Every time someone came near, she tensed, letting out a low protective rumble. David stood beside her, one hand on her back, whispering, "It's okay, girl. I'm right here." Dr. Harris and her assistant moved with quiet urgency. They carefully collected small samples for testing, a bit of fur, a gentle swab, a scan of the newborn's vital signs. The monitors beeped softly, filling the room with a rhythm of suspense. The vet's brow furrowed as strange readings appeared on the screen. "These heart rates," she murmured, frowning. "They're not matching typical canine patterns." She adjusted the settings and checked again, but the results stayed the same. Their temperatures were slightly lower, their bone structures delicate, their pupils narrower than any puppy she'd ever examined. David's voice trembled. "So are they sick?" Dr. Harris didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned off the scanner and leaned closer to one of the newborns, examining the tiny paws. They were longer, thinner, with small claws that looked sharper than they should be. She exhaled slowly, shaking her head in disbelief. "They're not sick, David. They're just not dogs." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. David blinked, unsure he'd heard correctly. "Not dogs, but Luna. She gave birth to them. How?" The vet looked equally confused. "That's what we need to find out. We'll send the DNA samples to the lab immediately, but whatever they are, Luna clearly recognizes them as her own." Luna whimpered softly as the vet moved away, her nose brushing against one of the small, trembling newborns. She licked its head gently, letting out a low, comforting hum, the universal language of a mother's love. David felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Confusion, fear, awe. He didn't know what to believe anymore. All he knew was that Luna was protecting something no one could explain, and that the truth, when it came, would change everything they thought they knew about this world. 2 long days passed before the lab results arrived. David had barely slept, staying beside Luna at the clinic. She refused to leave her newborns even for a moment. The vet staff had grown fond of her, often whispering in awe about her loyalty. Every time someone walked by the glass enclosure, Luna's eyes followed protectively, calm but watchful. When Dr. Harris finally entered the room, a stack of papers in her hand, David's stomach tightened. Her expression was unreadable, part disbelief, part wonder. "David," she began softly, "you need to prepare yourself for something unexpected." He stood slowly. "Just tell me, what are they?" The doctor took a deep breath. "They're foxes," she said finally. "Newborn red fox kits, but incredibly premature. Their features match perfectly." "DNA confirms it." David stared at her, speechless. "That's impossible. Luna's never even been near a fox, let alone." Dr. Harris nodded. "I know. That's what makes this so extraordinary." She glanced toward Luna, who was gently cleaning one of the kits. From the evidence, it seems these weren't her biological offspring. But for reasons we can't explain yet, she's treating them as if they were her own. David's mind spun. "Then where did they come from?" "That," the doctor said quietly, "might be the most remarkable part. We found traces of fox fur embedded in Luna's coat. Older, faded, as if from prolonged contact. It's possible she encountered a fox mother before giving birth. Somehow she must have carried the newborn kits to safety, perhaps when their real mother died." David looked through the glass, watching Luna curl protectively around the tiny white foxes. Her eyes were half closed, but her ears flicked at every sound. The image struck him deeply, a mother who didn't care about species or blood, only about love. Dr. Harris smiled faintly. "We've seen dogs foster kittens or lambs, but this is different. She's nursing them, protecting them as if nature herself rewrote the rules." David swallowed hard, emotions tightening his throat. "So she didn't just give life," he whispered. "She saved it." And for the first time in days, Luna finally rested, surrounded not by puppies, but by the lives she had chosen to protect. Dr. Harris's words lingered in David's mind long after she left the room. He sat beside Luna, gently stroking her fur, his thoughts drifting backward, trying to piece together how all this could have happened. And then, slowly, the memories began to surface. It had been 2 weeks before Luna gave birth. David had taken her for a walk along the edge of the forest that bordered their small town. The air had been cool, the sun dipping low beyond the trees. Luna had seemed unusually alert that day, her nose twitching, her ears pricking at every sound. Then suddenly she bolted from the path, dragging the leash from his hand. "Luna! Wait!" David shouted, chasing after her through the underbrush. He found her a few minutes later beside a fallen tree, whining, pawing at something hidden beneath the roots. When he knelt down, his heart broke. There lay a small red fox, a mother, still and lifeless, her body curled around 3 tiny, barely breathing kits. Luna whimpered softly, lowering her head as if she understood the tragedy. David remembered how she had nudged one of the kits gently with her nose, letting out a low, mournful sound. He had assumed it was pity, the kind of empathy animals sometimes showed. But now, looking back, he realized it had been more. That night, Luna had refused to leave the back door. She had sat there for hours, staring into the forest, whining softly as if something inside her couldn't rest. And now David understood. Somehow Luna had found the kits again, maybe carried them home, maybe sheltered them when their mother was gone. Perhaps she had even brought them close before her own labor began, protecting them the only way she knew how. The truth hit him like a wave. Luna hadn't just saved them. She had chosen them. The following morning, the clinic was unusually quiet. The world outside bustled as usual, but inside there was a calm reverence around Luna's enclosure. Nurses tiptoed when passing by as if afraid to disturb something sacred. Luna lay on her side, the tiny fox kits nestled against her belly, their faint squeaks blending with her steady breathing. Dr. Harris entered with a clipboard and sighed softly. "They're doing better," she said. "But raising wild kits in captivity is complicated. Normally we'd transfer them to a wildlife rescue." David looked up sharply. "No," he said almost instinctively. "You can't take them from her. She won't survive it." His voice cracked, filled with conviction. "She's their mother now." The vet hesitated, glancing toward the enclosure. "David, she's a dog. She doesn't understand. She understands love," he interrupted quietly. "Maybe more than any of us." There was a long pause. The only sound was Luna's gentle breathing and the soft rustle of tiny movements beneath her fur. Finally, Dr. Harris closed her folder and nodded. "All right," she said softly. "But we'll keep a close watch. They'll need special care, and so will she." Over the next few days, David stayed by Luna's side, helping with feeding schedules, keeping the kits warm, and ensuring Luna ate properly. She slowly regained her strength, her eyes brighter each day. The kits grew too, their fur turning golden red under the clinic lights. They would playfully nip at Luna's tail, and she would nudge them gently back toward her side, never letting them stray far. David often caught himself smiling through tears. He had seen devotion before, but never like this. Luna wasn't just fostering these creatures. She was proving that motherhood wasn't defined by blood, but by heart. And for the first time since their mysterious birth, the room no longer felt heavy with question, only warmth, peace, and a quiet kind of miracle. A week later, what began as a small-town curiosity exploded into a story that captured hearts around the world. It started when one of the clinic nurses posted a short video online, Luna gently licking the tiny fox kits, curling around them as they snuggled into her fur. Within hours, the video went viral. Comments flooded in from every corner of the globe. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. "Proof that love has no species," one user wrote. "A mother's heart knows no boundaries," said another. News channels picked up the story, and soon camera crews were gathered outside the clinic, eager to meet the dog who had defied nature itself. David was overwhelmed. He had never imagined that the quiet act of kindness between a dog and a few orphaned foxes would move millions. But as he watched Luna on the screen, and calm, patient, nurturing, he understood why. Her image radiated something universal, something deeply human. Reporters asked endless questions. Did you train her to do this? Was it instinct? Will the foxes survive? David could only smile. She just followed her heart, he said simply. That's all. Dr. Harris gave interviews too, explaining the medical impossibility of it all. By all logic, these kits shouldn't have survived, she said. But Luna gave them what no formula or machine could. Warmth, protection, love. Letters and gifts began pouring in. Blankets, toys, donations for animal shelters in Luna's name. Children sent drawings of her surrounded by baby foxes, labeling her the hero mom. Inside the clinic, Luna remained blissfully unaware of her fame. To her, there were no cameras, no headlines, only the small, fragile lives pressed close to her chest. She had no idea she had become a global symbol of compassion, and yet, perhaps in her own way she understood, because every time one of the kits stirred, Luna would lift her head and watch over them with that same quiet devotion, as if protecting the very hope the world had fallen in love with. Months passed and the seasons quietly turned. The once fragile fox kits were now strong and playful, darting around the grassy yard of David's home with boundless energy. Their reddish coats gleamed under the sun and their bright eyes sparkled with mischief. Luna sat nearby on the porch, her fur glinting gold in the afternoon light. Though she was older now, her posture was proud, the unmistakable air of a mother watching over her children. David leaned against the fence, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You did it, girl," he murmured. Luna glanced back at him, tail swishing softly before turning her gaze once more toward the foxes. They weren't puppies, they never had been. Yet to Luna that didn't matter. To her they were hers. Sometimes the foxes would vanish into the woods for hours, exploring their natural home. David always worried they might not return. But every evening, without fail, they came bounding back, weaving between Luna's legs, rubbing their small heads against her chest, greeting her with playful nips and chirps. Dr. Harris often visited, still amazed by how nature had embraced the impossible. "It's as if Luna became the bridge between two worlds," she said one afternoon, watching them play. She gave them a home when they had none, and somehow, they gave her a purpose that science can't explain. The story had faded from headlines by then, replaced by newer wonders, but for David, the miracle never lost its glow. He often thought about that stormy night, the confusion, the fear, the disbelief, and how it had all led to this quiet harmony. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the foxes curled up beside Luna, their bodies pressed close against hers. David knelt beside them, running his hand through her fur. "You changed the world, Luna," he whispered. "One heart at a time." She lifted her head slightly, eyes half closed, and gave a gentle sigh, content, peaceful, complete. And as twilight settled around them, David realized something profound. Sometimes, the most extraordinary miracles aren't found in science or reason, but in love itself, pure, selfless, and unexplainably real. If this story warmed your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true tales that prove love has no limits.